Political analyst, Dr. Piet Croucamp. Thank you for joining us. Doctor, what do you think of the SACP's claim that this is a declaration of war, that they were just asserting?
Well, if it's a declaration of war, it's been coming for some time. You will see that Blade Nzimande says that he's been threatened quite often that he will be removed from cabinet. So I think the relationship between the SACP and the ANC is so strained, but maybe not that. Maybe I should correct myself. The relationship between the President and the SACP has been so strained that it's almost to be expected that he will act in this way. But I think one must not say necessarily that the relationship between the ANC and the SACP is strained. I think that relationship is still continuing and still existing.
This was certainly not about education in any way, clearly.
No, it was not about education. I think one has to ask the question, what is the President's long-term plans for what he's doing? I think as far as the energy sector is concerned, you have to ask the question now. The President knows nothing about nuclear. The President has no vested interest in making the economy grow or thinking that we might need nuclear for the future when the economy grows. You might have to ask the question now, why is he so persistent? Why is he so desperate to make the nuclear deal fail, to make the nuclear deal stand? So, and you must ask the question now, what is the relationship between him and Vladimir Putin? Those questions are coming to the fore. And then, of course, the other question is, why does the President act as if he's become reckless, as if he doesn't care about the relationship with the National Executive Committee of the ANC anymore? He doesn't care about his relationship with the Working Committee. He clearly doesn't care about the relationship with the top six of the ANC anymore. What is so high? Where is the price so high that he's prepared to actually give up all those relationships?
So let's get to nuclear, but first let's just clear up the SACP. Blade Nzimande, Peter, raised something. He was critical of the government, well, his party certainly was, and some people would be saying good for South Africa that this alliance is falling apart because the ANC has often been seen as hamstrung. It can't please business, it can't please labour unions that are in the alliance. Some say this is good. That's
not completely true, because the Communist Party has been part of the ANC all along. They've been part of the NETLAC agreements with labour unions, labour and unions and government has come together and business has come together. So I think they've moderated a lot since the liberation struggle in the 1980s.
The alliance is workable.
The alliance is very well workable, I think. Yeah.
All right, then let's go to nuclear. David Mkhize now moved to energy, so that's where your suspicion lies, and just explain that.
Yeah, that's where my suspicion lies, because he certainly has got no experience in energy, but he does fly from time to time to Russia and to Moscow and to talk with Mkhize was there, and Vladimir Putin they have agreements with. I remember that our previous minister, Tina Joemat-Pettersson, she met Vladimir Putin. So it's quite obvious that the President's got a fixation with the nuclear deal and the fixation with the Russians' involvement in the nuclear deal. You have to ask, where does it come from? And I think that the big thing for me is, how much is the President prepared to pay in political capital to make that deal fly? And he's quite prepared that he doesn't care alienating a whole lot of partners in South Africa if he can make that fly.
Well, let's be clear about what the suspicion is, that money or a deal, things have been exchanged, or hands have shaken on a nuclear deal already, and it involves kickbacks. That's why it's not nuclear per se that's the problem.
Well, the argument is money has exchanged hands, the President must come up with a deal, and Vladimir Putin phones him and say, Jacob, where's the deal? We've transferred the money, where's the deal?
However, there's been a lot of smoke. You know, Rosatom, the state energy agency in Russia, came out and said, we have this deal. They then backtracked. But since then, there's been no clear evidence of this backdoor deal.
Yeah, I think Jacob Zuma has said to them on more than one occasion that we have to settle things back home first before we can make this a public display of our relationship. And first of all, he had to deal with various investigations. He had to deal with the Communist Party, he had to deal with the caucus, ANC caucus, and he had to deal with Scopa and with the Treasury when he was under Pravin Gordhan. So those things had to be settled first. And I think he reaches the point where he feels now, maybe I have them in place, but he's also desperate enough to not really care whether it's in place or not.
And that's just all got to be done before he leaves office.
He's got Kikaba now. and he's got the Minister of State Security, and he's got the Minister of he's got the Treasury also under his control. So I think all the institutions that he needs to push the deal through seems to be under his control now.
So how would Mkhize himself be key? What is it about him? His spy past? What helps him?
Well, all the previous ministers, they weren't strong enough to really push the thing through, because you have to get it in some other way. You have to push this deal through the Parliament. You have to get it through past Treasury. You have to get it past the Minister of Finance. You have to in some other way pacify civil society. You have to get it past the ANC caucus in Parliament. So I think they need a strong personality, or he needs a strong personality, and I think Mkhize is a much stronger personality. But the thing is, it is very unlikely that they will get this thing flying before December, because it will certainly be challenged in court. So it means that the time is running a little bit short, and that if there is such a deal, it will most likely happen on the watch of the next ANC president. And of course, Jacob Zuma hopes that will be Dlamini Zuma.
Well, the courts have said nuclear, the whole procurement process has to start from scratch. Is that enough of a delay to prevent state capture, if that is the goal?
The president has shown us that you can delay justice for 8 to 9 or 10 years if you want to, and certainly this will not be the end of the story as far as the court process is concerned. It will go well into next year.
Anything else surprising? Mkhize moved out of Home Affairs, a legal battle with the Director General. Could that be at play here? What about the other changes today?
I'm not sure if the President thinks in terms of what has happened in the department between the ministers and the directors. I think he's trying to consolidate this position within the cabinet, just in key positions, because you must just remember, every time he changes his cabinet, every time he moves a minister around, he alienates some ministers, he makes enemies within his cabinet, he makes very few friends with the moves that he's made over the last few days.
But does this mean he's isolated in any sense now?
The ANC is now a separate institution from the president, and what is concerning to me is the president must ask himself, what am I doing to the chances of Dlamini Zuma to win the presidency of the ANC at the end of the year? He's certainly throwing her under the bus. There's no way she can win an election, a leadership election, if he goes on like this and she's sitting on his tail. I think this has certainly made the race in December between Mkhize and Ramaphosa, and Dlamini Zuma won't survive this.
All right, strong views. Thank you very much for your analysis, political analyst Dr. Piet Croucamp.